Hey, what's up guys, Reese here from reese3d.com. In this video we are going to create this chair in Maya 2023. If you take a look at this chair, it's made of different pieces, so we can actually start from the base of the chair and start building the back of the chair, and then we can create the legs and everything. So we're going to build these things with different primitive shapes. So we can just start with a cube, and then we can add more divisions and things like that, and make some tweaking to the vertex and stuff like that to create the final look. Okay, so I'm going to start from this middle area. So let's go to create menu, and there you will find polygon primitives and cube, right? So I'm going to make this cube a bit bigger. I'm going to use the scale tool. I can also use the values directly here. I'm just going to use the scale tool, so I'll just make it bigger like so. And I want to make it shorter as well, something like that. I'm going to push this up or pull this up. All right, I think it can be a bit more wider, so I'll use this square shape down here. Actually, I should be in my scale tool, yes, and this square shape I can make it a bit bigger as well. That looks good. So let's add some divisions here, and if you don't see this, you can actually go to this channel box, which should be right here, channel box and layer editor, and there you will find this input section, and by default it's actually shrunken down there, so you need to just click on that to expand, and then we can increase these subdivisions. So I'm going to give a subdivision width of something like 5, I guess, right? Now if you're wondering how this value is changing, I'm actually using my middle mouse button here. So select the label here, go to the viewport and use the middle mouse button, click and drag, so you can actually increase these numbers. So for height divisions, I'm going to use number 2, so just adding one line here. And for subdivision depth, I'm going to increase it to, I think 5 should be fine. Okay, so I have to decide which is going to be my front and which is going to be my back. So based on that, we can actually make one side to be smaller and one side to be bigger. You can see that actually this side is slightly larger compared to the back. Okay, so some seats have got the same width in all sides, but I'm just going to imagine that this chair has got the front to be a bit bigger and the back a bit smaller. So to work a little bit more precisely, I can actually go to my top view, the front view. So I'll press space bar here to go to the top view here. Now I can also make these a little bit smaller here, so I can see both my perspective and my top view at the same time. Now to make further editing, I have to go to my vertex mode, so I'll right click, okay, and go to vertex mode, so I can see all the vertices here. You see, this is going to be the back. In my case here, it's this one. Okay, so I'm just selecting all of them, and I'm going to use the scale tool. I have my scale tool, and click and drag. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for this guy a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to do this a little bit more. Okay, if it goes too much, maybe I can just adjust this guy a little bit more inside, and this one a bit more down here. Okay, so this last one also I'm going to just push it a little. Okay, something like that. Okay, I think that looks good. All right, now the other thing is I also want to make the center to go a little bit down. Okay, so this is not absolutely necessary because you can see that it looks almost straight, but you can see there's a slight bend that's going down here, so right in the middle, right? So we can just create that look by selecting all these vertices. Now keep in mind, you can use the edge mode also to make these changes. You can also use the face mode to make these changes, so keep in mind. So in case if you don't like to use vertex, you can actually do the same change that I'm doing here by using the edge mode. So for example, if I go to edge, I'm just going to double click on this. That selects all these edges. I'm going to shift double click on this, so I have selected this 2 edge loops. right? And now I can just move this down. So this is same as moving these vertices. Okay, so you need to be careful exactly which ones you're selecting in terms of getting the final result that you want. Right now I can do the same thing by using my faces as well. So if I just select this faces and I'm going to select one, I'm going to press shift key and double click on the second one, so you can see that it selects all these faces down here, and I can just click and drag. So this again creates the same exact result. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you're using a vertex or edge or face. If you know exactly what objects need to be moved, so you need to select them and it would do the trick. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it as it is, so something like that. And now I can also use my edge mode, and I can just double click on this edge loop, double click on this edge loop by pressing the shift key. Now keep in mind, when you press the shift key, you see a little plus sign, right? So that means it's adding up more edges to the existing selection. So I can just push this down, so you can see that now we have a nice arc. Now if you think it's a little too much, maybe you can just push this up a little bit. Okay, and I can do the same thing for these guys as well. So I'm just going to double click here, and push it up a little bit. Okay, not too much. Great. Now when we are going to finally use it, we're actually going to apply something called a mesh smooth. Okay, or you can also get a preview of that smoothness by pressing the number 3. Okay, so if I press the number 3, it's going to actually smooth it and show it to us. So that's how the final look is going to be. Now we can still make a bit more smoothness here by using a bevel tool, right? So you can see here. So I'm just going to go to edge, double click on this top edge. I'm going to shift double click on this one to select all these edges, shift double click on this one to select all these edges, and shift double click on this selected double click on this edge to select this edge loop. So I've selected all these top ones. I'm going to press shift and right click this time, shift and right click, and now I can go to bevel edge. All right, so now this can give us a nice bevel here. I'm going to keep the fraction, I think 0.5 is fine, and I can increase the segment here, maybe 1 or 2. I think 1 is enough. Okay, so that actually makes this top area really smooth. Nice. We can do the same thing for the bottom as well. I'm going to double click on this one and press shift, double click on this one, shift, double click on this one, shift, double click on this one. So that selects all these guys. I'm going to press shift, right click and go to bevel edge. So this bottom is not going to have that much of smoothness like in the top. So what I can do is, instead of 0.5, I'm going to give 0.3 or even 0.2, 0.5. Okay, so 0.25, so that should be fine. I guess I'll add 1 segment there as well. Now, if you're using the same fraction value, you could have actually selected that top and the bottom together and done the same thing. Okay, now let me just go back here, and even these corners are nicely smoothed out. So let me press 3 and see. I think that looks good, right? But if you want, you can also just apply a bevel here by pressing the shift key and selecting all these corners. Okay, and I can apply a bevel edge here. I don't want too much of fraction, so let's give 0.2 with a segment 1. That's nice. So now if I press 3, you can see that we have a really nice smooth corners. That's not too smooth, actually. It's a little too sharp. So maybe I'll just increase this fraction. Not too much, 0.5. I think 0.5 should look nice. Let me press 3 once again. Yeah, that looks much nicer. Okay, now if you think that the back is a little too much bent down, you can actually lift these up as well. So maybe I can select these faces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually 1, 2. Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so just these guys. Now these are not absolutely necessary, but if you think that you want to create something like that to keep just the back side a bit straight up, you can do that. Okay, now keep in mind, it's basically your personal wish, based on how your to your eyes perspectives, and based on what you think it is. What I thought was like the back is actually kind of straight and the front is a little bit curved, so that's why I wanted to make the back to be somewhat straight and the front to have a little bit of curve. Okay, so whatever you think is perfect, you can do that. Okay, fine. So that's just the seat being done. Now what we can do is we can actually create this back. So it's basically a thick frame and there's a mesh in the front. Okay, so we can either build it as a single piece or we can make it as double pieces. So I'm just going to create the frame first and then we can just fill the rest of the area. Okay, so for the back, again, I'm going to start with a cube, right? So we'll take this cube up. It's going to be thin and it's going to be big. It'll be almost the same size as this one. Okay, looking nice. I'm going to push this back and let me just push this up over here. So this is my side view here, and as you can see, it's actually going straight halfway and then it's actually bending towards the other direction. So let's just add one division here for now for the height. So just one division, and that one division I'm going to push it down. I'm going to go to vertex mode here. Let's select here. Now keep in mind, when you're selecting vertexes or any objects or any subdivisions using the other views, you need to be careful how it's going to affect in the other views. Okay, so for example, if I select one vertex here, okay, see what happened? It just selected this one vertex, and if I just move this forward, you see what happens? It's only moving one side forward. It's not moving the other side. Why did that happen? Because I selected like this. I just clicked on it, right? So if I want to select this one and this one, instead of just clicking in the side view, I will have to click and drag. Okay, so now I have selected both of them. And now I can just move this forward, so you can see that I'm actually moving all these guys together. So these two vertices together. So I'm just going to select these two. So that's actually selecting 4 different vertices, and I can just move this forward and I'll actually bring this down. I can actually use the center here. This is my side view, so no problem. All right, so that's just a basic shape, but this is not enough for us, right? So if you take a closer look here, I think it's the same width from down to up, but we can give a little bit of smaller size. We can make the top area to be a little bit smaller compared to the bottom area. So I'll look at the front view here. I'll select these 2 vertices. I'm going to make them a bit smaller. Okay, and from down till here it's the same size, so I'm just going to push this whole thing up, something like that. Okay, so that's just the basic shape. Now you can see the bottom is actually thicker compared to the top, so we can do that small change as well. So I'll select all these guys in the bottom. I'm just going to make it a bit thicker. Okay, and this one as well, slightly thicker, but because when we actually smooth it, it's going to become more and more thin. Okay, now we could have actually created just a cube like this and then extruded to make the rest of the area, but that's fine. All right, so now I'm just going to create some cut here. I have to make some holes right in the middle to create the rest of the shape. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to select these 2 faces and these 2 faces together. Okay, so the faces in the back and the faces in the front. I'm going to press Shift right click and I'm going to do something called extrude face. All right, so when I do that, I get a little gizmo here. So this is a universal transform tool. Okay, so this tool has got both the move, rotate, and scale together. So you can see that we have the arrows XYZ, we have the cube XYZ, and we also have the circles. So that's for rotation. So using this tool, we can do all those things at the same time. Okay, so let me just click on the scale tool here. I'm going to select the middle area for the scale tool, and I'm just going to make it like so. So you can see that we have scaling happening here, right? Okay, so let me go to my front view here. I just want to make the width somewhat matching up with the height. Okay, and I can either delete this, or we can do a further extrude to merge these things together. I'm going to delete this for now. Okay, so I'll press the delete key, so it's actually creating a frame like this, right? So that's exactly what we wanted, just the outline here. Okay, and apart from that, we actually have a big hole here, so we need to fill this hole. Before that, let's just give a little bit more thickness here, because you can see the bottom is a bit thicker compared to what we have here. I think the top is fine. Just these bottom vertices, I'm going to select all of them. Now if it is difficult to select these vertices, you can also press 4 in the keyboard just to go to the wireframe mode. So from the wireframe, it becomes a bit more easier to select all that. Okay, so now how do we fill this hole? There's a option called fill hole. Let's give it a try with the fill hole. I'm not sure if it's going to work. If it's not, then we will do some extrude and then fill it or merge those vertices. Okay, so I'm going to select, I'm double clicking on this one and shift double clicking on this one and shift right click and is fill hole. Okay, so as I thought, it didn't work. Okay, it actually filled up the way it was before. So what I'll do is I'll try something else that's called bridge. Let's try bridge the same way I have selected, and we have bridge here. Let me click bridge. So bridge kind of worked, but it actually bridged wrong directions. So let me give it a try here to change bridge offset. Yes, it worked. Okay, so with bridge offset as 1, I just told the bridge tool, come on, you should connect these two vertices or edges, not the other ones. Okay, so that way we have everything connected. It looks fine. Let me just apply a smooth here just to make sure that we have the nice shape that is required for us. Fine. Now, because when I go to smooth, it actually smooths out everything because we don't have enough divisions to define these different shapes. So for doing that, we have to add some bevel here. Okay, so we can also add edge loops right in the middle, but bevel will make the corners to be really to the shape that we wanted. So let me just apply some bevel here. So I'll go to edge, double click on this 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 edge, and go to bevel edge here. Let's keep the fraction to be way low, something like 0.1. Let me see if I can go to 0.05. So that's half of 0.1. Okay, so now I also want to give segments. So let's say 2, 1. I think 2 should be fine here. Okay, now if I try to smooth it out, you see it gets this shape that we wanted. All right, so I should do the same thing for these vertical shapes. So I'll just double click on this one, double click on this one, double click on this one, and double click on this one. So I get all of them, and I'll give bevel edge here, and I think that's fine. 0.5 should be fine, or maybe 0.2, 0.3, I guess. Yes, we'll give 1 segment there. I'll press 3 now. Looks perfectly good. Now we also want to have the same thing here because we want this edge to be sharp. So I'll apply another bevel here as well. So let's keep the fraction to be low. Let's see, 0.05, and we'll give segments 2 or 3. That's fine. Let me just press 3. So that, yes. Okay, so now that we have got this basic shape, let's start to build the base of the chair, and then we can add the handle and the final looks at the end. Okay, so for the base of the chair, we are going to have a cylindrical shape, so that's simple. I can start with the create polygon primitive and choose a cylinder here. Now the cylinder by default comes with subdivision axis of 20, so let's just reduce that a bit. I'll choose 8, and we can actually have this cap divisions to be 0, because when we smooth it out finally, it's going to look really nice. So let me just make that small like so, bring this down here. And as you can see, this is going to be the inside shape, and we can just build on top of that. So let me just create this outside thicker beam here. Beam, or I don't know what it is. So let me just select that, extrude. So I'll select the scale tool here, make it bigger. I'll do one more extrude here, bring this down. So as you can see, that's the longer one here. Okay, so from there we actually have some extrude out, and then we have the feet coming out. Okay, so let me just select it here. I'll select this face, extrude here, bring this down. So what we can do now is I'll select all these faces. Okay, so selecting all of them, I'll do one more extrude, and this extrude I'm going to make it smaller and then bring it out. Okay, so you start to get this shape that is required for us, right? So that's this shape. If you think it's too big, maybe you can make it smaller as well. I think the whole thing has to be made smaller. So make the whole thing smaller. All right, so now I also want to add some bevel everywhere, just to make the overall shape look smooth, especially when I press 3. Okay, so let me just go to double click on this guy, double click on this guy, double click on this one. I think these two we can just leave it as it is, and also the bottom we can leave it. So bevel edge here. Let me add segments, maybe just 2 is enough. This time if I press 3, it should look like this, so that's fine. Just the top has got some issues, so let me just press 4 to have my wireframe mode. So for the top, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select this, extrude from the top here, and I can actually do one more extrude. This time it's going to go in there, and this edge loop I can apply a bevel just to keep it something like that. Now if I go to smooth mode by pressing 3, that's how it's going to look. Nice. Okay, so now let me just create these feet. Okay, we can add these extra handles and stuff like that later. Let me add the feet. If you want, we can as well create another bevel here, not too thick, very thin. Yes, press 3. Yes, that looks nice. Okay, so for the leg I'm going to use my side view here. Go to create polygon primitives. You can start with a cube, and this cube is going to be made smaller. Bring it up there. Go to the vertex mode, select all the vertices, bring them down. Okay, so I think I can have this bigger here, just to have this entire size. All right, so this is going to be extruded, then pushed out. All right, and then pull down here like so. I can do one more extrude, bring it down, maybe one more extrude, bring it down. This time it can be made flat. Yes, there you go. So I think this can be something like that. Something like that, and maybe all these guys can be made a bit smaller. Something like that. Let me add some divisions in between. So let's say I'll add one here, just push it slightly up. And then you can actually use the last use tool here. So that's the insert edge loop tool. I'm just going to push this slightly up. I'm just going to add one more here as well. Just push this up. And right at the bottom, I'm just going to press 3 and see how that looks. I think that looks nice, except the fact that the bottom has got some issue. So I'll add one edge loop. Where is that edge loop? Here. Okay, just here, so that it will make this bottom to be a bit more sharp. Okay, now I'll do the same thing here as well. Okay, so this is similar to adding a bevel just to make the edges to be looking hard. I'll make it 3. Yes, so that looks nice. Now you can see it's more of a cylindrical shape. If you want, you can also make it like a square shape, or as you can see here, it is actually a bit more thinner as well. So if you want, you can create any kind of look that is needed for you. So if you want to have it a bit more sharper, you can actually add a bevel here for all these guys. So that way we can have something like that as well. So depending on what kind of look you want, you can add different stuff. Now below that, we need to create this wheel structure. So if I just go down, zoom in here, so you can see that we have a wheel and then we have some kind of a cover for the wheel. So let me just create a simple wheel here. So we can start with either a torus or even a cylinder would do. Okay, so make it small, rotate it 90 degrees, make it small like so, bring it where you want, smaller. Okay, so keep it there, and that's exactly where we want it. Let me see if it is double. It is double wheel. So let me make it thinner. And actually, if you take a closer look, it's actually one side soft and one side is a bit hard. So we can just create a bevel on one side. So something like that. Double click on that and apply a bevel. Just going to increase the bevel a bit and divisions like so. So you can see that one side is a bit hard and the other side is smooth. Right, so this side also we can apply a small bevel, but we'll keep the fraction to be really low, 0.05, and we can add one segment here. That looks good. So let me just make it, press 3 here just to smooth it, so you can see that it's smooth one side but it's sharp on the other side. So now if I go back to my front view here, let me select that guy, press F to smooth it out. I can actually select all these vertices, move them to right side, and I can duplicate to create another one on the other side. Okay, so before I duplicate, I'm just going to do a couple of steps here. Edit, delete by type history, and I can actually go to modify and choose freeze transformation just to zero out all these values. Now I can go to edit and duplicate special options. So let me go to reset here, and for the scale x-axis, if I give -1 and hit duplicate special, so I get a second one on the other side. So that's perfectly fine. Okay, so next thing that I have to do is I have to create a cover for this. So the cover is basically going to be a cylindrical shape in the top, and then part of a cylinder or half of a cylinder right here. Okay, so for doing this, I'm just going to push these guys a little bit out here. All right, and I can actually either extrude from here or I'll create a new one, no problem. I'll create a cylinder, rotate it 90 degrees, make it smaller, and I'm just going to take it all the way to this one, press 4. We can use something called a point snap here. So if you see this magnet with a small point, and I can actually snap it to any of these points so that it stays exactly in the center. So that's what we want. And I can make it a bit bigger here to encompass this entire shape. Make it a bit smaller. And now to put them exactly in the center, I can use the grid snap. There you go. Let's make it a bit bigger to cover up that entire space. All right, so I'm just going to go to face mode here, and I'm just going to delete half of the faces, and I'll also delete this half, so we end up with something like this. Okay, so select all these faces and do a little extrude, so now I get a complete shape here. Okay, so if it's too thick, maybe we can make it a bit thinner. I think that's fine. Okay, so if I press 3 on this is going to go weird. So we need to add some divisions wherever it is needed. So let me just go to select the object, shift right click and choose insert edge loop tool. I'm just going to add one right here, one right here, and I'll also add a couple of them on both these edges. I could have also used bevel tool just to add some bevel as well, so that's totally up to me. I think that's fine. Maybe I could have made a bit smaller just to fit into that shape. All right, so one last thing that we have is this shape here. Okay, so that's again based on a cylinder, so I'm just going to go with a cylinder here. Make it small. Bring it over here. Okay, so this shape is supposed to be only outside of this wheel shape, right? So it needs to exist only outside this wheel. So let me see if I can just push this over here. Maybe even make it smaller than that. I'll select this guy, go into reducing the number of divisions down to 8. So we'll be able to move that a bit more easily. And I also want to get rid of this cap divisions so that we can work on this shape a bit easier. I'll extrude a bit, extrude down so we get that little shape down there. Okay. And we also want to get rid of some of these edges that are down here. So I'll just select this one, push this up, select these ones, bring them up, just to make sure that they're only in that top area. Okay, so based on the needs, we can add other details as well. So let me just press 3 to smooth. That's not what we wanted. So what I'll do is I'll actually add some edge loops right here. So maybe 1 or 2 in the bottom, maybe just 1, and 1 up here, and I can actually apply a bevel to these edge loops. So let's say double click on this one, and actually I need to select all these guys as well because they're not showing up. I can actually select them one by one. If I had one more set of edges or faces inside that, it would show up to be selected as an edge loop, but for now I have to do this manually. Yes, so now let me just press 3. So it is smooth, it is connected, it does not have any problem with other shapes as well, and this whole thing has to be connected to this guy. So for that, I'm going to select this face in the middle, extrude. Make it smaller. Extrude, and that's going to go up. And I'll do one more extrude that's going to be going in. Bevel edge. Select all that. So once we have done so much of changes here, I'm just going to go to edit, delete by type history. And these are all different pieces and they all have to be one single piece. So I'm just going to select all of them. So before making them into a group, I have to go to edit, delete by type history. Now I can make them into a group. So that's an entire group. Now keep in mind, now even if you create a group, when you select the object, it is going to select individually. So if you want to select the entire group, you can actually select one object and then press the up arrow to select all those objects in the group. Now the other place that you can see the group that you have created is the outliner. So if you go to window and choose outliner, so there also you will be able to see the group and all the objects that are inside that group. All right, so now let me just select this group and move this in just like that. Okay, so now I can actually select this leg as well to make it into a single group. I can use the middle mouse button to click and drag to move it inside the group. So now this entire thing is a group, and the pivot point is not in the center. So let's just bring this to the center. I'm just going to use the D key in the keyboard, or you can use the insert key in the keyboard, and you can turn on the grid snap and just move it slightly there. So that's going to snap to that grid point. Now this is very important because we are actually going to make multiple copies of this. Okay, so just from one leg, we're going to make the 4 other legs. So let me just press D key one more time to come out of the pivot mode, right? So now I will have to make a copy of this. Let me go to edit, choose duplicate special options, and there we have to do some settings. So let me just reset that. And we want copies to be created in rotation. So that's rotation Y in our case, that's the upper one. So we need to decide what is the angle between the 2 or the 4 or 5 legs, right? So let's just give it a value just like that, just to test out. So let's give 50, and I want to have 4 copies. So if I hit apply, you will see that it created 5, or yeah, total of 5 legs, but they are not equally placed in the entire 360 degrees. So what we need to do is we need to find out what should be the angle. I think it's 72. Let's give it a try with 72. If you don't know, you can actually divide 360 by 5. Whatever value you get is the right answer. So it is 72. So we get all those 4 legs. Okay. So we will finish this video with this, and in the next lecture we will create the handle and the extra stuff that is required for the chair. So this completes this video. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.